What if the answer to your fertility struggles isn't about your reproductive system at all? Today's guest sat on her closet floor every single morning for 6 months, crying. She just had her second failed IVF transfer, this time a miscarriage, and her body felt more broken than ever. The medical system had cleared her physically, sent her home, and told her to try again when she was ready. But here's what no one told her. Her body wasn't broken. It was screaming to be heard. Alyssa Chavez went from debilitating endometriosis pain and years of infertility to conceiving naturally, but not before she discovered something the fertility specialist never mentioned. The missing piece wasn't another procedure or protocol. It was the intricate connection between her gut, her nervous system, and her ability to conceive. And in today's conversation, she's sharing exactly how she pieced it all together. Not through medical intervention, but by finally learning to listen to what her body had been trying to tell her all along. If you've been told you're medically cleared, but something still doesn't feel right, this episode is for you. I am Shana, and this is what I wish I knew beyond pregnancy loss. Welcome to the What I Wish I Knew After Pregnancy Loss podcast. I am your host, Shana Southern. I am an angel mum, a rainbow mum, a pregnancy loss practitioner, and trauma-informed coach. I created the Institute of Healing Through Pregnancy Loss out of my own experience with loss in the hopes to provide understanding and healing, educating people on pregnancy loss, and creating more women or men in trained support roles. In this podcast, I hope to shed light on what I wish I knew in relation to pregnancy loss, opening up the conversation, breaking the stigma, and bringing real life stories plus guest experts. Thank you for being here with me today, and let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the podcast, the intersection of pregnancy loss, fertility, trauma, and purpose, having the conversations that should have been happening all along. Today, I have with me the lovely Alyssa Chavez. Alyssa is an endo and infertility warrior turned functional nutritionist and life coach. She helps women who are struggling with gut and hormonal issues to get to the root of their symptoms once and for all. Alyssa takes a whole person approach, supporting the physical body as well as the mental and emotional body to help women move forward, bring themselves back into alignment, and truly thrive through life again. Thank you for joining us, Alyssa.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here too, because everything that I just said about you is something that I love to talk about as well. I love to bring awareness to, although it's not my zone of genius. So I just know from my own personal experience how important gut health is for our mental and emotional health, especially when we are healing through challenges like infertility, pregnancy loss, trauma as well. Did you want to share your story and essentially how you got to where you are?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm more than happy to. Yeah, my journey really started back in 2016, which is when I went off birth control after having been on it for much of my 20s. At that point in time, my husband and I were just about to get married, wanted to start a family, and so I just stopped taking it one day. What happened after that is that I felt like things just started to fall apart a little bit with my health, or a lot of it actually at that point in time. I started having those really intensely debilitating periods to the point where I couldn't even physically stand up straight. I couldn't make it up the stairs of my house. I definitely couldn't go to work or do anything very productive. It was pretty much just couch bound or bed bound with a heating pad. That's just how I suffered through several days every month. Along with that, I was finding myself really struggling with fatigue and gut issues, and my skin went crazy, started having all these breakouts. It seemed like all these things were happening. And then my husband and I got married, and we really wanted to just start a family right away. So started that route. And Nothing was happening. A year went by. Next thing we know, another year went by. Nothing was happening. And in the meantime, my health was really just getting worse and worse. And I'd been to a couple of doctors along the way just to check in. I was thinking this period pain can't possibly be normal. So went in to just get looked at. And honestly, I just didn't really get a lot of answers. It was a lot of just, yeah, why don't you just try this birth control? And I was like, A, I've already done that. And secondly, I'm actively trying to conceive right now. So that seems like it's actually taking me the opposite direction of where I'd like to go. So that's a pass for me. And
Nice to know to
finally,
see what your goals
oh
were.
yeah, absolutely. It was just very cut and dry. Oh, you're having period pain, take this pill over here. And that just didn't resonate with me. And finally, in 2019, we ended up going to see a fertility specialist because a few years in, just nothing was happening. And through that, I actually, because, when you're going in for fertility stuff, you do tend to actually do testing and scans and all of the things to try to figure out what's going on. And so, at least through that process, I did get an answer in the sense that I was told I had endometriosis, which was the first time that was ever even mentioned to me, despite having been in pain for 3 or 4 years by that point in time since I had come off birth control. And really, a little earlier than that, or a lot earlier than that, probably before I had ever been on birth control. At that point in time, we were basically told if this is going on, then your only option is going to be IVF. And you better do it sooner than later because things will only get worse. And the older you get, the harder this will be. I think I was, what would I have been, like 28, 29 at the time. And so we did. We decided to just go for it. We dove all in. We did all the crazy medications and shots and all of these things that, quite frankly, made me feel terrible, but I just thought it was my only option, so I ran with it. And what ended up happening is our first transfer was a failed embryo transfer, it just didn't stick around. We went in to do a second transfer, which that one actually was successful. I had a positive pregnancy test. We thought everything was great. And then I ended up having a miscarriage a few weeks later. And that was just, after having been through everything we had been through, just felt so devastating. I just felt like I was at my wit's end, my rock bottom, like I just couldn't do it anymore the way that I was doing it. I was feeling the worst I'd ever felt in my body. I was feeling the worst I'd ever felt emotionally as well. And I just knew that there had to be something else. And I remember even asking my fertility doctor at the time, hey, is there anything I can do to help to support my body? I think this was even in between the two transfers. I was having a conversation with her and just said, hey, what can I do to help support myself? Is there anything I can do through diet, through lifestyle, anything else besides just all the medications and procedures? And she just brushed it off as just, whatever you think might help. After I had that miscarriage, yeah, towards the end of 2020, that was my turning point of just, okay, I've got to figure out what's actually going on in my body. I need to figure out a way to actually support myself because I'm just not really getting any answers right now. And so I ended up just digging in and starting to learn how to take care of myself. I was doing a lot of just research and experimenting at first with making some dietary and lifestyle changes and started to see some positive results. So that led me to, hey, I would really love to learn a lot more about this so I can support my own body and hopefully be able to help other people who are struggling with this because there doesn't seem to be a lot of support out there in this area. And so I ended up just diving headfirst into my education as a functional nutritionist, which is the work that I do now. And along the way, saw an enormous amount of positive changes in my own body. I went from having those completely debilitating periods to later on becoming completely pain free, which I thought was not ever going to be possible for me. And energy levels were improving. I haven't had any gut issues in several years now. And all of that was going really well. Things were feeling really great in my body over a period of the next few years. But then there was still that one last thing where I still wasn't getting pregnant. Like just nothing was happening on that front. So what I decided to do as we headed into 2025 last year, I can't believe I'm saying that now, is I decided to really take some time to focus in on my mindset, my mental and emotional health, my nervous system, all of these pieces that kind of had been pushed to the side and I would say squashed down amongst everything else. And I started to really take the time to support myself on that journey and got to the point where I was feeling so much better mentally, emotionally, all of the things. And next thing I knew, I just spontaneously got pregnant after all those years. And I'm now expecting a little baby girl who's going to be coming up in March.
Oh my gosh, I just got goosebumps. That's just such a beautiful and not end to your story, but like for so
Yeah.
long having your journey the way that it did. And I think when we go through these things too, when I experienced my miscarriage, it forced me to stop where I was in my life and go, okay,
Mm-hmm.
what can I do for me right now? What does my body need? What does my health need? What does my emotional body need? And when you can start to allow yourself the space to work on that, I think, and like you said, you ended up working on your nervous system, so like nervous system health and all of that too. Our fertility is so directly and intricately connected to our nervous system, to all of these other functions in our body. If, just say, for example, our nervous system is still in a survival state, your reproductive system is offline. It's like your body is not safe enough yet to fall pregnant, to bring a little
Yeah.
person into the world. So our body is so bloody smart, but it ends up doing things that just cause us so much heartache and grief because in our
Yeah.
mind, we're like, no, I just want to fall pregnant. I just want to have, on paper, I want to get married. I want to have a family. I want to have all of this stuff. And then our body's not actually ready for that. But we don't
Yeah.
have the tools. And like you said, you went to the doctors and they're like, just try this. And you're like, that's not actually going to get me towards that's not my intention. That's not my goal. Or just do what you feel is right. And you're like, but I don't know what. These are why
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking myself to you. You're the person that's meant to know. So I love that even though through all of those challenges, you were able to just take that pause and go, you know what? I'm going to do this for me first. I'm going to understand what my body
Yeah.
needs. I'm going to understand and work on that in this time. And now you're pregnant with your baby girl. And it's just such a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
moment to come back to and go, you did all of the work. And
Yeah.
it sucks that we have to take it upon ourselves to do that. It was the position that I was in too, because I wasn't getting it from the medical system. I wasn't getting it from anyone outside. So I'm like, I need to figure this out for me. And I was an elite athlete, so I knew nutrition had a lot to do with your overall health, like mentally, emotionally as well. My dad used to always say, you are what you eat. And I was just, what does it even mean? But then when I understood our body better and I understood healing better and I understood you can even there's certain foods that you can eat for your womb health. There's certain foods that you
Mm-hmm.
can eat to help you heal through grief and emotions. There's certain
Yeah.
foods that you can eat to help your body like really nourish your body. And then I was like, oh, I finally get what that means.
Yeah.
When you were obviously going through the infertility journey, because that can be very, like you said, you went all in and didn't get the results that you wanted. That journey in itself can be very disheartening. It can be very
Yeah.
challenging. And then to obviously have a successful implantation and then find out that you had a miscarriage. What were you able to do for yourself in that time? Were you able to support yourself, or was it something, that you were like, no, I'm just going to keep trying, I'm just going to keep going? Because that's essentially what we're told from the outside world.
Yeah, I would say at that point in time, I didn't have the resources or the knowledge to really support myself. All I knew at that point in time was just I felt like I had reached my breaking point. Like I couldn't do it anymore. I was feeling very low emotionally. I would say I really even went through a depression. Every morning for a while there, after I had that miscarriage, I would get myself out of bed somehow in the morning. I would take a shower, and then that's about as far as I would get. I would go sit in my closet in my bedroom and just sit on the floor and just cry every day for probably 6 months after I had that miscarriage. It just felt very heavy. It felt like I was stuck in place. And I certainly, I was checked out medically after I miscarried and told, given the all clear, everything looks great. You let us know when you're ready to try again. But I was given zero resources to support myself emotionally. And that's the part where I was struggling the most. And it's not something that anyone ever talked to me about. You hear that pregnancy loss is common. And I've known many people who have experienced that, but that's the part that no one ever tells you is that it can feel very heavy emotionally. And yeah, I definitely don't feel like I had the resources to handle that. The next few years, I was working a lot on my health physically at first. That was something I felt like I could do, was working through the nutrition side of things and making changes to my lifestyle. And I was doing a lot of positive things to help myself. But emotionally, if I'm honest, I was having a hard time for probably several years when things like Mother's Day would come around or holidays, things where I had really envisioned being able to do certain things with my kids, with my family, and knowing that wasn't going to happen this year again. It was hard to the point where I would find myself just hiding away in the house, didn't really know how to support myself, much less when a family member or a friend had a pregnancy announcement or there was a baby shower coming up, and just figuring out how in the world I'm going to navigate this and handle it. It was definitely several years of just really struggling emotionally until I finally figured out that, hey, maybe besides working on my physical health, I need to start to support myself mentally and emotionally. Because that's definitely, I got to the point where I was like, I think that's really the area where I'm struggling. And it did. You were saying this earlier, how the nervous system is so intimately connected with your reproductive system. That's so true. Your nervous system is one of the things that can impact your hormones and your reproductive health more than anything, because your body's just not going to prioritize reproduction if it feels like it's unsafe for any reason. And I definitely would say my body was getting signals that it was unsafe. I felt constantly stressed and anxious, and mood was everywhere. My poor husband felt like he was just walking on eggshells around me, like he had to be careful what he said all the time. And it wasn't until I got to the point where I just said, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy my life, regardless of what happens on the fertility scene, that things finally started shifting. And because I was, I think, actually allowing myself to enjoy instead of just constantly stressing month after month if, what I was going to do or how we were ever going to have a family. Yeah, it was a long road for me to finally put the pieces together and figure that out.
Yeah, this is the thing. What you said when, you were released medically cleared, this is where this huge gap is in pregnancy loss care and even pregnancy after loss. So
Yes.
that whole trying to conceive journey after experience reproductive loss and trauma. You're not, yes, medically on their paperwork, you're good to go. But no one looks
Mhm.
at your emotional health, your physical health, and your nutritional health, your nervous system dysregulation, your hormones to the point of, oh, even for me, it was like your hormones aren't right. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, why? And
Yeah.
what you do is get to the root cause. And that's exactly how my mind works as well, is what is happening that you can see is a result of something else that's happening. And there's something deeper in the root. It's not just this band-aid thing that you can fix. Just here, have a tablet, or here, have something that's going to fix that external symptom. That's something that your body
Mm-hmm.
is telling you is like fundamentally not right. So, how do we get to that root cause? And with all the work that I've done, I'm like, why is there not more people looking at the root cause, looking at the things that are causing these external symptoms, the things that you're taking yourself to the doctors and the specialists for? Because, like you said, and then you got cleared and sent home, and then you had no way to actually process what was happening. And this is where a lot of women then just keep going in that same pattern. They keep trying in that same pattern because they're like, oh, the doctor said I'm okay. I'm like, but your body's not functioning properly. I was actually really lucky to have a GP that I saw after my miscarriage. And she taught me about the methylation system. And she said to me that your whole body is intricately connected. And if something is off in one part of the body that may seem completely irrelevant, it's this domino effect, and it sets off this chain of events. And it can cause something in another area of the body that to someone who's not really trained may seem that it's not even connected, but it is. And our body is always communicating. That was one of the biggest things for me to walk away with, knowing that you can't just work on your hormonal health and nothing else, or you can't just work on even your physical health and nothing else. It has to be this holistic approach. We have to understand that everything is connected, and everything we do need to work on. It took me a little while to get there as well, because obviously when you're going through it and you don't have anyone on the outside, you're fumbling through on your own. I knew, for me, I'm a very emotional person, so I knew I did go into depression. I did go down that path, and I knew I needed to get help to get out of there. But once I had worked on my mental health and my emotional health, my physical body was failing. It was almost like I got to a point of, to some degree, of healing in my emotional and mental body, that then I could focus on my physical body and do what I needed to get that up to functioning properly.
Yeah.
But it takes time. And I think that's the thing too. We can't rush into maybe trying to conceive again, or we can't rush into that, because our body needs to go through the healing process so that we can have the healthy pregnancies afterwards. But like you said, it took you time, and it takes time, and we can't put a limit on what that's going to take.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you've shared a little bit about how you used nutrition and like the functional nutrition to bring your physical health back. Is there anything else that you wanted to share in terms of how you brought yourself back into alignment?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I loved what you were saying earlier about just knowing that there's symptoms going on or even a diagnosis going on. That's really just the starting point. And it's so true because I think for many people, and definitely for me when I first started this journey, that's how it was. It was just, okay, I'm having these really painful periods and I'm not getting pregnant. Okay, oh, I have endometriosis. Can I have the answer? And then that was the end of the road, which I think is true for so many people. And that's where I really love the functional work because with that, it's really when you have that information, that really is just a starting point of now we're going to dig deeper and figure out the why behind all of that. Because at the end of the day, when you have symptoms going on, be the period pain or just weird irregular cycles, or even if your only symptom is struggling with fertility or maybe having recurrent pregnancy loss or pregnancy loss at all, it doesn't have to be multiple times to decide to investigate. It really is your body sending signals that there's something that it needs, something it's missing, or some area that it needs support. And the more that we're able to connect with that and figure out what that actually means, then we're able to help.
If you're listening to this and feeling the pull to help bereaved mothers, but you're stuck wondering, what am I actually building and can I make this work? I created something for you. It's called From Loss to Legacy, the 4-week immersion. Over 4 weeks, we crystallize your calling, your story as professional foundation, your purpose that will sustain you, your specific offer with proof bereaved mothers will invest, and your 12-month roadmap forward. You'll stop circling and start building. The certification teaches how to support bereaved mothers with trauma-informed frameworks. But the immersion teaches you what you're building and whether this is your path. The next cohort starts in March. Enrollment opens in February. If you're ready to get clarity on your calling, DM me immersion on Instagram. Don't circle for years. Get clear now.
So to me, I think of it like with a car. And mind you, I know nothing about cars. So this is why I would absolutely hire this work out. But the idea of it is the same, though. There's a symptom going on. Let's say every time you drive somewhere, there's a weird clunking sound. You can find out, hey, there's a weird clunking sound. Oh, it means, I don't know what that would mean, but I'm sure it would mean something. And then you have to actually investigate and figure out why that's happening in the first place so that you can fix it so it doesn't become a larger problem. But essentially, it can be a little more complex in the human body, but it's essentially that same idea where when we learn to really tune in and listen to what our bodies are telling us, and for me, a big part of that too, besides just, it's really not even as simple as here's a list of symptoms and here's what they mean and what we do about it, but also just shifting that mindset of understanding that symptoms are how your body communicates, right? Because our physical bodies can't just talk to us and say, oh, hey, Alyssa, I'm struggling over here because my nervous system is going haywire. What do I do? Like it doesn't know how to use words. Our bodies communicate with these symptoms. And so that's really, I think, where the functional work shines because we're taking that information from your body. My sessions with clients involve so much just conversation of talking through, okay, what is it that you're experiencing? And how does that come up for you? What does that look like? What does that feel like to you? What else is going on? And just digging deeper and deeper. And there are some tools along the way. I do things like functional testing to actually get some data and see what's going on under the hood as well. So much of it is just really learning to tune into your body, what it's actually trying to tell you, what it's saying, so that we can figure out how to give your body the support that it needs, be that certain nutrients that your body needs more of, support in rebalancing your gut, support with the nervous system to hit reset on that and bring things back into alignment on that front. And there's so many different moving parts and pieces. And for many people, it's a combination of all of it. It certainly was for me. People will ask me sometimes, what's the one thing that really helped you most on your journey? And it's hard to answer that question because I don't think it was one thing. I don't want people to leave here feeling overwhelmed. Oh, I have to do everything to feel better and to be able to support my body. Not necessarily, and certainly not all at once. For me, it was a journey of several years of experimenting and figuring things out. Not to say that it has to be that long for everybody, but this was my learning curve along the way too, which always adds to that time frame. But I think the biggest gift that I've gotten out of all of this is that even before I ended up being able to conceive naturally, I felt so much more connected to my body again. Whereas for a long time, I just felt like I was broken, my body didn't work, my body's just fighting me, all of these narratives that we tell ourselves. And it did. It just felt like my body and I were in this constant battle. Even when I do have symptoms coming up, because I'm human, things are all the time because I've done all this work. But what I do understand now is how to really listen to my body and tune into what it needs and figure out what area I might need more support. And the cool thing is that the more experience that you get with it, the more it becomes intuitive. And I see this with my clients now as well. I'll have clients come to me sometimes where we'll hop on a session and somebody starts telling me all of a sudden, hey, I was feeling this lately. I was feeling more tired and a little more sluggish. So I started eating a little more red meat again. I thought maybe I needed a little more iron and B vitamins. And sure enough, then we look at their blood work and they're like, oh, that's exactly what you needed. But you were able to intuit that without, it's nice having the data as backup just to see that. But that's really the cool thing is that your body knows what it needs. It's just, we got to learn to listen to that again.
Yeah, it's so true. Your body absolutely does know what it needs. And like you said, the symptoms are the communication. And I love that because it is so true. So much of our body is just, it's always talking, it's always communicating. And we can take our power back when we start to realize, oh, I don't actually need a tablet for that. I don't actually need to go to the doctors for that.
Yeah.
I can actually do that with XYZ, whatever that is, however that presents for that person. And we can really start to take our power back with our own health. And I think that's one of the best parts of our healing journey is I think we do start to really become, it gives us a chance anyway, to become more in tune with ourselves and really
Mhm.
understand what it is that we need without having to take ourselves to the doctors all of the time.
Yeah.
They absolutely have their place. We, doctors and
Hmm.
surgeons and professionals and specialists, like they all have their place. But I think we can do more of the work for ourselves by understanding what our body is actually saying to us, what it's doing, what those symptoms are saying. Even if it's just, it can be as simple as aches and pains or headaches all of the time. Like it doesn't have to be this huge thing all of the time, but our body is constantly communicating through dis-ease or discomfort. Like it's always
Hmm.
communicating as well. And I think there was something that I've read or I may have heard. Is it like your gut is your second brain? And I think it has more neurons in it than your brain does. Is that right? So our body, our gut is always, and I think this is where, even through my own healing journey, I was diagnosed with Crohn's and then I was undiagnosed with Crohn's because everything just went away. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that just doesn't happen. Then I was diagnosed with high functioning anxiety and depression. So my nervous system, what I then could notice was I was living in a fight and flight response and then like a shutdown response. But what I felt in that moment was it hit my gut. Like that response that I had, it was like sharp like pains into my gut and it was like instant. And then I
Yeah.
realized how connected our nervous system is and how important our gut is in communicating what is happening as well to us and from the
Hmm.
outside environment.
Yeah. Totally agree. That's something that I've become super passionate about as well, just because what really happens is that your nervous system and your gut are just so intimately connected with each other. This is really true with every system in your body, right? We tend to think of our body systems being separate. We have the nervous system, we have the reproductive system, we have the digestive system, and they tend to be talked about separately. And even if you go to get medical support for one area or the other, you're usually going to go to a doctor who specializes in that area, right? If you have issues with the gut, you're going to a GI doctor. If you have issues with hormones, you're going to an endocrinologist, somebody who specializes in that area. And there's definitely beauty to that because you're working with somebody who has experience with that particular area. But what we're missing there is that we're missing the fact that the different systems of our body are so intimately connected. And I love that you talked about that physical sensation that comes with what's happening in your mind as well, because that I know is so true for so many of us. Because if you think about even just a basic example of, let's say you have to go and have a meeting later today that you really don't want to, whatever that may be, something at work, or maybe you have to have a hard conversation with a family member or a friend or something that you're just really dreading and not looking forward to. What does that feel like? For most of us, it feels like something's happening in your gut. Many people find that they don't have an appetite in a situation like that because your gut just feels very clenched and tight, and you have that kind of butterfly feeling in there, or maybe you even have an upset stomach or you get nauseous. It's so interesting how connected our thoughts and emotions are to your gut. And that I think shows right there without having to go into all the science behind it. We've all experienced that. I remember one time years ago, my husband and I had taken a trip. We were actually in Europe, so we were many thousands of miles away from home. I live in California, so it was far from home. And we had a situation where we missed a flight because of a connection at the airport. And basically nobody wanted to take responsibility for it. And so it was going to be like, if you want to get home, you're going to have to pay another $3,000 or $4,000. There's no flights out until such and such time. It just became this very stressful situation very quickly. And what happened? I started feeling like my stomach was hurting. I got nauseous. It's super common. And I found even when I was really struggling with endometriosis, I had some very similar stories with that where I could wake up in the morning and feel perfectly fine. And then something stressful would happen in the day, and I would feel the muscles in my body just starting to tighten and clench. And the next thing I knew, I started having endometriosis pain. And I started to recognize, oh my gosh, there's really a direct connection between these things. And that was, as I started to put these pieces together, was a big part of where I started to recognize that, gosh, maybe I need to do some work on my nervous system because there does seem to be some connection going on here. But you're so right. Those systems in your body are so intimately connected. And then that very much relates to the reproductive system as well, because none of the systems in our body work independently from each other. So, the gut and the brain are connected. The gut and the reproductive system are connected. Your nervous system and your reproductive system are intimately connected. You can put pieces together with any of those things. And there's so much. Even if you're somebody who's really logical brained and needs to see the science behind that, there's a ton of that. If you're somebody who's a little bit more intuitive and you can feel that, I'm sure you can think about that and feel that just based on the examples that I was mentioning there. But yeah, there's so much to that. And that's why I really love this whole holistic approach to health of just, it can't be just one thing. And honestly, that's one of my biggest pet peeves is when I hear even a lot of very well-meaning holistic practitioners talk that way, where it's all about the gut, or it's all about the nervous system, or it's all about the hormones. Like people will talk like that's it. That's all that you need to think about. That's the one thing that will solve all your issues. And I just don't believe that.
I don't believe that either. You can't just focus on one thing and then expect everything to be better. It was
Yeah.
definitely not my experience in trying that. It didn't work. You start to focus on one thing and then you realize, oh, hang on a minute. There's still other things that are at play here, and I'm not done. I need to keep going. We took those steps to figure that out for ourselves. We're like, okay, I didn't know anything about nervous system health until I felt that in my body. And then I was like, okay, now I need to learn about this so that I can support myself through that. I knew about
Mm-hmm.
emotions, but I didn't know, because I was a very emotional person. I used to cry all the time. And I'm like, I know I need to cry. I know I need
Mm-hmm.
to witness my emotions, but also there's more to just crying or sometimes just feeling them. We need to meet the energy of those emotions. We need to sometimes physically do something with them somatically. That was what I was feeling too. I was angry, and just feeling angry wasn't cutting it. I'm like, no, I punch something. I need to punch something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love how your focus, that's what you do. Your focus is that holistic experience of, okay, this is what your body is communicating with you. Let's see what we can do with that communication. Let's see how we can support your body. We can nourish your body. And if you ever have to see a professional and a specialist, then that is the thing after you've tried all of, what your body can handle and do for itself.
Yeah.
I think when we start to talk about the nervous system, it's almost, there are so many people out there talking about it, but it is really important, but it's not. Probably women, they might have seen stuff about the nervous system on social media and gone, oh, that's not me. I don't need to do that. But when we are talking in the realm of fertility and loss, our nervous system is very, if you're just focusing in on one thing, it is very, like we've said multiple times today, it's very connected to so much of what your body needs to reproduce, especially the reproductive
Mm-hmm.
system. Maybe just reading all of that stuff on social media hasn't struck a nerve or made a light bulb go off in the past, but maybe listening to today can actually say your body is always communicating, and there is power in being able to listen to that communication. And obviously, there are people like yourself who can help women decipher that communication and help you actually proactively do something with that and have a plan with
Yeah.
that and get them back on track, like you said, back into alignment with, functional nutrition and understanding your body and how it's communicating. Is there anything that we've missed today? Is there anything that you want to share that we haven't spoken about? Because I feel like I could talk to you forever about, functional nutrition. And you talk about it in such a really consumable way. So when you're talking,
Mm.
it's, oh, yeah, I can understand that. So
Yeah. Good.
I
Good.
love listening to you talking about it. But I guess for women who are going through similar journey to yourself, what's something that you would recommend for them in that place?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know your audience is largely thinking about pregnancy loss and possibly infertility mixed in with that, because those two things can often go hand in hand. But I would say I'm just thinking back to those lovely days when I was sitting in my closet crying every morning and kind of where I was then compared to where I am now. And I know it seems like I have really moved mountains in that time. That first of all, that for me was a 5-year time frame from 2020 when I was going through IVF and had a miscarriage until 2025 when I ended up conceiving. It was quite a length of time in there. So everything that you're hearing me talk about, it certainly didn't happen overnight. This was quite a journey. I also don't want to say this to dishearten anybody. Oh, you're going to have a journey of years before you feel better. Not at all. I think, like I said, part of the length of my journey was just because I didn't have any direction starting out. And I think just by listening to this podcast, this episode, but your podcast in general, is going to help give you a lot of guidance and help you to head in the right direction. So I think just by being here today, you're already a step ahead of where I was at that point in time. But what I really want to say to anybody who's in that space right now is just the biggest place to start is to really learn to tune back into yourself and listen to what your needs are in that moment. If your need in that moment is, I need to just go cry into a pillow, that's okay. It doesn't have to be this dramatic night and day shift. That's something I really emphasize when I talk about this and when I work with clients. When you're working on making changes to support yourself, I really like to emphasize that we want to make changes that are going to be sustainable in the long term. And so that doesn't mean turn your whole life upside down overnight and change all of the things at once, because you may already be in a space where you're feeling a little overwhelmed and you're feeling maybe some of that anxiety, depression, lots of emotions come up around this, and that can already feel very heavy. And then if you start on top of that, putting all this pressure on yourself to take care of all the things, that can feel like a lot. My best advice to somebody who's just starting out is take it one little step at a time. If you're really in a low point right now and just needing some kind of support, start small. Take one small step. If you're listening to all the things I talked about today, I was talking about nutrition, I was talking about some lifestyle changes. I know we didn't really dig super deep into all of that, but we were talking a lot about the nervous system support and all of the things. If you're listening to that and you find that one of those is maybe resonating with you more than others, gosh, I really feel like I can help to support myself with nutrition. Like, I haven't been eating great. I feel like I can make some changes. Maybe you just start with one small thing. You know what? I haven't been eating a lot of vegetables lately. I'm going to add in a couple of extra servings this week and just take yourself one step closer. Or if you've been listening to us talk about the nervous system piece of it and are saying, gosh, I really haven't done anything to support my nervous system. Where do I start? Maybe it's as simple as you're doing a little 5 minute meditation practice or breath work practice, or you just getting yourself to a yoga class or something that just helps you to feel good, or even just getting out in the sunshine for a walk. Like, it can be what seems like the smallest step, but sometimes those little teeny tiny steps are what helps to give you the momentum to keep going. Because I know one thing that I experienced, and I know that this is super common just from all the conversations I've had with women in similar situations, is that it is very easy to feel stuck. This is where I am in life right now. I feel very stuck. I don't know how to move forward. And we just start looping in that same stuck position. So if you can take just one teeny tiny step forward, even if it's the smallest possible thing you can think of, you're already starting to break that pattern and bring yourself into a positive direction. That's my best advice as far as just where to start on this journey.
Yeah, and like you said, there are so many different things available, but like you've also said, it doesn't mean that you have to do them all at once, all now. It's just having the awareness of, okay, these are things that, or people, or tools, or things that are available to me when I get there, when I'm ready for that. But for right now, yeah, like you said, it can just be that 1%. What's 1% different to what I did the day before to help me get out
Yeah.
of where I am? And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love the examples that you gave too, because I think sometimes we can get caught in our head and go, oh, it has to be this grand gesture of something. And it doesn't. It can be something so seemingly small. And like you said, just whatever you think of, even if it's the smallest thing, just do that.
Yeah,
Don't
exactly.
don't
Yep.
dismiss it as nothing, because that small step, that small idea can start to break that pattern. It can start to shift you out of feeling stuck. And what I tended to do for myself was I'd get myself to the beach. Some days I'd go for a walk on the beach. Some days
Mm,
I'd just sit and stare at the ocean. And I didn't do anything. I just sat there. But when we can get out into nature, has an incredible ability to start to rebalance us and ground us. If you have, just go out and put your feet on the ground, barefoot on the grass, or go for a walk in trees or a forest or whatever, if you've got something around, or next to a river or the ocean. That was something that worked for me. And I had no idea about somatic practices or meditations or even to go to yoga. It was just, what can I do that I know makes me feel good? And it was just to go to the beach. And then from whatever energy I had, I was like, I might go for a walk or grab a coffee and just sit there. So yeah, just like you said, one small thing. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be grand. 1% different to the day before. And just keep doing those
Yeah,
1%, and that they add up. And like you said, it's the momentum. You're
exactly.
creating momentum for yourself.
100%.
Absolutely beautiful. Yes, like I said, I could keep talking to you, and there was so many things that we spoke about today that I know we've just scratched the surface, but you did give incredible insight into just even your story, how you were able to navigate it, how you've been able to use functional nutrition to support yourself. We spoke about, emotions, mindset, and nervous system, and how important that is holistically for us and our gut health. Like you said, we didn't dive much into the lifestyle component, but there is obviously that as well. But like I said, we've been able to just touch the surface on some of these things, and what we've been able to talk about, though, there was incredible value in that. I truly thank you, Alyssa, for sharing everything that you have today.
You're so welcome. And thank you for having me.
That's okay. So, do you want to share? I'll link everything in the show notes as well, but do you want to share where people can find you, reach out, have a chat, and what you have available?
Yeah, absolutely. I always love chatting with people because, as we know, with the world of the internet now, it's lovely that we can connect with so many people. But my favorite thing is just having conversations. So always feel free to reach out. Best places to find me, I do spend a lot of time on Instagram. You can find me at aligned.to.rise. Website is www.alignedtorise.com. And I am also the host of the Aligned to Rise podcast. So those are really the best places to find me. You can hear about all the things coming up, all the things that I'm doing. And like I said, I would love to just hear from you, connect with you, hear your thoughts about the episode, any insights that you got. Just feel free to connect.
Yeah, beautiful. And like I said, I'll link everything in the show notes as well, so they're just one click away from you. But I truly appreciate your time and sharing your experience and your expertise so openly today. So thank you again.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks so much for having me.
You're so welcome. Thank you to all that have listened in. If this episode was valuable to you, I invite you to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and I look forward to supporting you on the next episode. Thank you for listening in with me today. I hope you found this episode helpful. If you did, I would absolutely love to hear from you. Take a screenshot of this episode, share it to social media, and tag me at Institute of Healing_PL. I love seeing what is resonating with you right now. If you want to chat further, I invite you to connect with me through Instagram. Head over and follow my Instagram account, send me a DM, and let's open the communication. If you want to know more about how you can be the support for others, head to the show notes and fill out the application form for the Pregnancy Loss Practitioner certification. I want to also note here that what I share within the episodes is not medical advice. If you need further support, please consult your doctor. Thank you again. Much love to you. Be gentle with yourself, and I look forward to supporting you on the next episode.